Get ready for some friendly betting advice from your guys in the desert. We're breaking down the teams, the lines, and the hundreds of prop bets so you can have a winning Sunday. It's time for Betting in Buds from the South Point Hotel with Brent Musburger, Vinny Magliulo, Chris Andrews, and Michael Lombardi. A special betting seminar for pro football's biggest game, and it starts right now.
Welcome everybody. All right, great crowd on hand. What the hell is this water for? Give me, Jesus Christ. Come on, man. It's a buck of beer. All right. Hail to all of our friends who are here. All right. Well, this is our first little seminar from VSIN to talk about the Super Bowl. And, some of us in this room, looking at me, we actually grew up with this game. When you think about it, you think of all the great sporting events in the United States. My goodness, we're over here in the race book. They're simulcasting us over there. The Kentucky Derby, we don't remember the start of that, okay? The World Series went way back to the start of the last century, but the Super Bowl, we have lived through it. And we all enjoy the experience so much, it obviously has become the biggest single sporting event in the United States. And I don't have to tell you, it's the best single sporting event to bet on, all right? All right. So, the guys who know a lot more about this than I do, and we want to thank Michael Gahn and the South Point and his great crew here for making that space available for VSIN, giving us the lounge. He's one of the great personalities in the founding of this city. And a man who's his chief bookmaker here at the South Point. He has been here for a number of years, came down to Mr. Gahn out of Reno. Many of you know him. Let's give it up for Chris Andrews. Mr. Andrews, come on out here, buddy. Hey, somebody remembers you from Cal
Somebody
Neva.
remembers me. Probably had the Niners all those years during the Super Bowl and beat the hell out of me.
Yeah, Nevada
Okay.
Wolfpack got a chance to get there this year. Great, Chrissy. And now, from Gahn Gaming, and a man some of you remember from Caesar's Palace, when he was the #1 bookie over there. He rides along with me every day, my guys in the desert. Give it up for Vinny Magliulo, everybody. Vinny, come on out. So we got a broadcaster and we got a couple of bookmakers, and I'm thinking, we got to have somebody who knows something about this game, somebody who's been around. We found a guy who 3 days ago, believe it or not, had a private phone conversation with God himself. That'd be Bill Belichick, former NFL executive. Give it up for Michael Lombardi, everybody. Mr. Lombardi, come on up. All right, lads, while I drink my dollar beer, I'm going to turn it over to you. Chrissy, get us started. Tell the crowd, because everybody knows it's -2.5.
So they opened pick, or the Rams won. I opened pick because, like I said, I felt I wanted to stay a little bit ahead of it. I thought the public would be on the Patriots, and indeed they are. I don't want to spill this beer. Anyway, we got bet all the way up to 2.5 pretty quickly. With quite a bit of money showing on the Patriots. We went to 3. As far as I know, we were the only ones in Las Vegas. We were 3 flat. And by the way, all you guys out there, so you do know, everything on our board, the main, whether it's the point spread or the totals, everything is -110. And that goes for basketball totals. Thank you. It's really helped our business quite a bit. Of course, numbers do fall occasionally. But fortunately, I answered to Michael Gahn, and he thinks this is a great strategy, and I agree with him 100%. Matter of fact, Mr. Cal Neva was out there. That's the way I did it at Cal Neva when I wasn't working for Michael Gahn. So Michael advocates that. So we did go to 3 flat. Somebody timed it. We took about 100-some thousand, more than that, actually, in 17 minutes. So anyway, we're back at 2.5. Now today we had a rather large bet. I put it out on Twitter. A guy came in, 300,000 on the Rams money line. And folks, Sorry. I just take the bets. And anyway, guys out there know, if you follow me on Twitter or listen to me on VSiN, I always use the same line. Show up with cash and we'll take it from there. Well, this guy showed up with $300,000. We took it from there. And, I had a couple others. I know one gentleman was asking me about props. A regular customer came up on a point spread prop. We put him up. Patriots plus 3.5. He bet $38,000 to win $20,000. So we will take a big bet, and they're all kind of negotiable. We'll see what we got. So that's where we are with the point spread. I don't know where it's going to go from here. I'll just tell you very quickly. Last year, when I got in on Sunday morning, the best scenario for us was the Patriots to win by 1 through 4. And by the time they kicked off, the worst scenario for us was the Patriots to win by 1 through 4. So I have no idea where this number is going. We'll just see where the money dictates.
Okay. Vinny, the props that have sprouted up all over town. Take us back historically. Really, what started this whole proposition craze around the Super Bowl?
Which, Brent, and by the way, thanks for everybody, to everybody for being here and sharing their Super Bowl weekend with us. Appreciate it on behalf of the Gahn family and Chrissy and everybody here. Brent, it's really a great story because in Super Bowl 20, the Bears and the Patriots down in New Orleans, there was a game, and there was a proposition put up by Chris's cousin, and it circulated around Las Vegas, and it involved number 72 for the Chicago Bears, William the Refrigerator Perry, as to whether or not he would score a touchdown in that game. And that proposition opened anywhere from somewhere between 50 to 1 and 100 to 1, depending on where you shop for that price. It closed at 2 to 1. Yes, you heard it. It closed at 2 to 1. And the biggest roar, and I've been in this business over 40 years, the biggest roar that I ever heard occur during any sporting event, and I was at Caesars for many of the outdoor fights and so many Super Bowls, was not obviously when the Fridge scored the touchdown, but when he was rumbling off the sideline to go into the game because it was a foregone conclusion as to what was going to happen. But what that bet did was really start the proposition revolution here in Las Vegas. And think about it, after that, the next year we had about a dozen different ways to bet, and it's grown. Today, Chris and the staff here, we put up 14 more propositions today. So the sheet that you get now will have an additional page. There are over 340 different ways to bet this game this weekend here at the South Point. That doesn't even include next year's Super Bowl futures, so you can get a head start on that before you go back if you think one of these teams is going to repeat or not. But the proposition revolution has now grown to where, depending on where you are, it's going to be 50% or more of the handle. And last year in the state of Nevada, Brent, $158 million wagered on the Super Bowl.
All right. Michael, take everybody here a little bit inside the game. They're interested. Will they reach 60 points? The over-under now in high to middle 50s right now. Tell us what you think about the game itself, the Patriots and the Rams in Atlanta.
Well, to get to the over, I think it's a 12-possession game, and I'm not sure Belichick, the way he wants to coach style and pace, will let it be a 12-possession game. I think it's really important for them to play the play clock, milk the game to a 9-possession, 10-possession game, and try to keep the game somewhere in the 20s for both sides, which would put the under in play. I don't think they want to, just knowing Bill the way I do, you don't want to get into a track meet with this team because at some point you lose. The pace, like Andy Reid, they got away from him and he lost the game in Los Angeles. So I think because of the way they play, because of the way they can personnel dictate to the Rams. The Rams have seen very little two-backs in the backfield with one tight end, 21 personnel. So that challenge for Wade Phillips will be extreme because will he play his nickel, which he wants to do, or will he play his base? And if he plays his nickel against that, we'll see the clock run a lot and the ball will run more. So I think the chess match in the game, Belichick wants to keep it in the 20s.
Michael, we always throw out the word experience, obviously. Belichick and Brady have been there. McVay and Goff haven't. Is it a real thing? You as an NFL executive have gone through this with franchise. Is it real?
You know, I think it's real in the certain rounds. This game is going to be real, but somebody's going to get punched in the mouth. And once you get, like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Well, this is the ultimate punch in the mouth game. And I think the Patriots realize they got to punch Goff in the mouth early and to see how he's going to respond with all the pressure and everything around him and how he can handle it, because he's never done it before. We know if Brady gets punched in the mouth, he's going to get up off the mat and come out and keep playing. So I think that's really the challenge. And if the Saints last week got up 13-0, but they lost 2 of the 4-point plays in the game. The Rams are one of the worst 4-point team plays in football. 4-point plays in football are red zone third downs. So the red zone third downs, either you kick a field goal or you score a touchdown, 4 points. The Saints last week had 2 of those early in the game. They didn't score. They gave up 8 points early in the game, and that cost them. The Rams, conversely, when they get into the red zone, are one of the worst red zone third down teams in football. They're 28th in the NFL. The Patriots are the second best. I think that's the essence of where the game will go.
So in the red zone is that important?
That's the key. I mean, the Patriots have practiced probably in New England and all week in Atlanta, probably spent 10 minutes every single day on red zone third downs, just red zone third downs, because that's the essence of the game. If you can hold them to that, then you got a chance to win the game.
Now, Chris, I know that one of the difficult props that you had to make was Todd Gurley. And the guys who are in this room know the story. He sat out the last 2 games of the regular season with that knee injury. Came back in the playoffs, but he only carried the ball, I think it was 4 times down in New Orleans. And so people wonder, is he injured? Is he more injured than we think? Or did coach just want to use Anderson? So you finally came late in the week with the props on Todd Gurley.
Yeah, we didn't put the props up on Gurley until yesterday, and we just wanted to get the latest injury report. Sometimes I don't always trust what these coaches tell us, but I do know what I saw last game, and part of me was thinking maybe he benched Todd Gurley, missing a pass or missing a block. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think he may have benched him, and Anderson has been fantastic. So we put up some numbers, probably look a little low if you're just going to take the season-long stats and bet just based off that. It would probably look a little bit like we were out of kilter towards the downside. But I think that's going to be a big question mark in this game. How does Gurley perform?
Vinny, the betting in Las Vegas with the apps, what has that done to the business in general?
Good question, Brent, because what the app does, and I'm sure everybody sitting here not only has a phone, and whether you're from Nevada or not, if you're here in Las Vegas, if you're here at the South Point, by the way, you can open an account and utilize the mobile app here to take full advantage of it. What the app has done is literally increase, so instead of, say, 40 betting windows here at the South Point during the course of the weekend throughout both the race book and the sports book and the ballrooms, we've got, in this room alone, we've got a couple of hundred additional betting windows. So what the apps have done, Brent, are create 2 things. A, convenience for folks, but also, frankly, from our perspective, some impulse buying, because now that convenience makes it a lot easier for folks to say, listen, you know what, I wasn't sure about a particular statistic or a particular wager, but I've got the convenience to do it now. Let me do it. And also to try to take advantage of some of the in-game wagering, which has grown, which is the fastest growing area of our business.
Michael, you and Jonathan Von Tobel of VSiN anchored a show back in Atlantic City on VSiN, Saturday and Sunday morning. Tell us a little bit about what you saw with the sports gambling crowd. This is the first year that it's been legal in the state of New Jersey. What did you experience back there, Michael?
Well, as a kid growing up as an Italian, every construction site had those cards, that you filled out. You give a guy $1 and you circle. Do you remember all those cards? Well, that ended once gambling came into New Jersey, and all of a sudden the book just became packed. I thought it was great on Saturday to be there. You got the Atlantic Ocean sitting right in front of us, and this book is just beaming with college people all wearing their jerseys from Virginia Tech, Penn State. There was a huge Penn State coalition that came in every week. And then Sunday, whenever the Eagles played at home or the Giants played or on the road or vice versa, the book was packed, and you could just see the action. There's a great appetite, obviously, from those construction sites that have translated into the legalized betting. And so it's there. It's been really great. I mean, it's different than here, because there's more people Monday through Friday here in Las Vegas, but on the weekends in Atlantic City in the winter, it's intense.
Exactly. Now, Chrissy, come Sunday morning, what's your advice? How early should the crowd get there to make their final bets? And how often would you perhaps change the line? If that money starts to really come in on the Patriots again, will Chrissy go to the 3, lad?
Well, I don't know. If somebody comes to the counter with enough cash, we'll go to 3. I can tell you that. I don't know that we will. I kind of have a feeling we won't, but again, I don't know. And by the way, so you asked me what time to get here for everybody. I'd say probably about 10 o'clock, because that's when we open the ballrooms upstairs. It's first come, first served. And if I could add on to what Vinny said earlier, we're going to have a special table Saturday and Sunday set up in the sportsbook for phone accounts. Now, if any of you folks are from out of town, you could load your phone account, and right after the game, you can empty it if you're going out, if you're heading back to Arizona or Los Angeles or wherever you might be. So really, by having that phone account, that app in your possession, you could avoid all the lines, because there's some crazy lines. So I'd say get here early. I honestly, I don't have a strong opinion on the game, so I'm not really going to let that influence me. I'm letting the money do all the influence, so we'll see what happens. But I would encourage everybody, if you don't have a phone app, get one. You'll avoid a lot of lines, and I think you'll find it pretty convenient.
Vinny?
I would add just to what Chris said, just don't leave. Just stay here. You get here, you don't have to worry
Be like
about
Brent.
getting here.
He came here and never left.
That's it. You can start your own studio, whatever. Just a matter of convenience, and get. And by the way, when you do go, have it in your mind what you want to bet, and be ready to wager when you get to the counter.
Yeah. Michael, what separates Tom Brady from other quarterbacks? How has he been able to stay at the top of his game? He had some bad games this year. Let's be perfectly honest about it. But now, coming down the stretch, they win the coin flip at Kansas City. He knows mentally, I can't give that ball back to Patrick Mahomes. We've got to score a touchdown. What separates Brady here?
I mean, Brady wakes up every morning thinking he's an overachiever. I mean, Brady doesn't ever think he's very good, and he does the same routine every single day to monotony. I mean, today is Friday. Thursday after practice, he did quarterback drops after practice when everybody went inside to take a shower. He worked on other things. His discipline to his diet is remarkable. His attention to detail. Peyton Manning gets so much credit for all the amount of study and his knowledge of football, but Brady doesn't really try to tell you how much he knows. But this I will tell you, if the Rams blow a coverage tomorrow and Brady's not looking at that area because he figured the coverage would take care of the player, he'll never throw the ball there, because he knows that coverage is where. If you remember the play in Atlanta that we came back from a 28-3 game when Alfred intercepted the pass, they changed that coverage on that play, the first time they did it all year, and they fooled Brady. And so his preparation is so unbelievable that you got to do something unique to make him not understand what's going on. Now, Manning, everybody knew that, but Brady's the same way, and he just doesn't express it. But his attention to detail, along with Belichick, look, those two guys have won more than anybody in the history of the game, and if you would talk to both of them, you never thought they won a game.
Now, they've got to block Donald and Ndamukong Suh. I think everybody in this room understands that. That front of the 3-4 that Wade Phillips employs, those two guys, Suh has come alive here in the playoffs. Donald's as good as it gets. He's got 20 sacks already this year. Will Belichick have a new scheme that they've never seen, or will he rely on what's worked for him in the past? How will he block that front?
So when you play a defense the way the Rams play it, they play what we call an under front, which there's no sense in explaining it, but the under is always going towards the tight end. So the Patriots can formation where they want Donald to be. So when they come out in the formation, say they put the tight end over to the right, that puts Donald over the left guard, and then they can run their protections against him. If they want Donald to be over Shaq Mason, they'll put the tight end over to the left, and they'll put the formation. So they'll do things to make sure they have a match match on Donald all the time. They'll start early in the game. They'll block him from different angles. They may wham block him with Gronkowski. They may wham block him with Devlin. They may angle block him with someone else. They're going to keep his head on a swivel where he's wondering where he's getting blocked from. And that's going to be the key to the game. The essence of the game is, look, we know this. When Brady has pressure inside, his average per pass attempt is around 5.5. When he doesn't have that pressure, he's at least 8 to 9. So the game is all about what I call being in the paint. So if you think of a basketball court, the rim is the quarterback's ass. The free throw line is where the quarterback sets up. In the paint is what bothers Brady. When you get defensive linemen in the paint, that's where he has the most problem. Goff will have as much as anybody, but that's the key, the only key to beating Brady. If you go back to the Super Bowls that they've lost, it's been the defensive lines of the Giants that won the game.
And will the Rams be able to throw deep? They have got Brandon Cooks, who played at New England last year, traded for a number 1 draft choice. They got Robert Woods from Buffalo. He came out of USC. They're both good, deep, wide receivers. Will they be able to work deep?
I think when Brandon Cooks gets off the team bus, he'll have somebody punching him in the mouth every single play. I don't think that Belichick's going to let him just free release off the line and go into his route like he did in that touchdown pass in the Saints game. The Saints had a defender up in his face and never hit him. They're never going to do that. I think the key to this game is going to be how they call the game. In light of the play that happened in New Orleans, will they call the game tighter? We've seen all through the playoffs that they haven't called the game very tight. They've let them play. But since that play, will Goodell say, hey, you better call this game tighter? If they do, that favors the Rams. But I think Cooks will get punched in the mouth. I think Woods will get the ball. And to Chris's point about Gurley, I think Gurley's going to have a big game in pass catches. I think because that's the one spot the Patriots can't really cover is the pass receptions.
You know, speaking of the officials, I hope we're not talking about them on Monday. But I do predict that they're going to call pass interference. It's only human nature, okay? That crew was hung out to dry. So it is so penal in the National Football League. Those of you who like the over, you know how pass interference sets up touchdowns, and you got to keep that in mind. I would think that any of the back judges, side judges, they see anything close, they're throwing a flag, okay? That's just to protect themselves. That's just my opinion about that. Chrissy, I want to ask you about halftime, okay? Okay. Because you bring out halftime bets. Tell our crowd here how that relates to the opening game spread and how you put that out. And that's not the same as in game. I mean, that's just for the second half.
Right. Well, you know, over the years, I'm not crazy about letting what happened during the betting before the game influence me that much on the halftime. To me, it's a whole new betting proposition. And I say that, but I'm painting with a very broad brush. Sometimes I will look to maybe protect myself. But ordinarily, I look at that second half as a brand new betting entity. And my recommendation to players is they should look at it the same way. Don't try to middle the game because let's say the Patriots are up 17 at the half or down 17 and you're going to try to protect your position. I'd say if you're up that much, stick that in your pocket. You probably have a pretty good bet going. But try to look at that second half as a totally different entity. And you may feel the team that's behind is going to come back. Or if it was a low-scoring first half, we're going to look at a high-scoring second half. Those all make sense. But I would tell you, try to use your logic. Don't just try to protect yourself, but try to use your logic and try to bet according to how you think the second half's going to go.
Matty Humans back there. Matt Humans, wave your hand up there to me right there, buddy. That's Matt Humans. When he heard that we had Budweiser products for $1 a bottle, he said, I'll be there early. So, but to the point of VSIN, the fastest growing segment of the industry may well be in-game wagering, okay? Now, obviously, you need the apps or you need a short line at the counter. But Matt Humans and the guys, Michael Lombardi will be in and out of that show. They will be talking about the changing numbers during the game, the spread, the money line, the over-under, the point total. And Vinny, when do the numbers come out here at the South Point? When will they be able to bet them?
Well, in terms of the end game, Brent, of course, it'll be mostly when there's a break. And here's the beauty of the Super Bowl is that there are there are more breaks, and there are longer breaks, so you have more time to do so. What I do encourage people to realize, too, is that the first half is completely separate from the quarter wagering and the second half wagering, and it's independent of the in-game wagering. A lot of folks have to understand and may get a little bit confused sometimes. When you're making an in-game wager, you're betting on the outcome of the game. When you're making a first half wager, it's on the first half, second half, and each quarter is independent. So you look at those individually and separate them. The other thing I would pay attention to Chris's point about halftime wagering, know who's going to receive the ball in the second half too. So that's an important aspect from your betting perspective, because we also take that into consideration when we're formulating the number for the second half.
And Michael, I know that you experienced, because you had some games in London with Jonathan in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So you saw how fast those numbers can change once the game starts.
I think most fans don't realize that there's always two elements to a football game: who's in the lead and who's in control. Sometimes the team that's in the lead is in control, and sometimes, like in the Super Bowl when we won 28-3, the team in the lead wasn't in control. And I think last year at the Super Bowl, when the Patriots got up on the Eagles in the fourth quarter, they had the lead, but they were never in control of the game. And I think in-game betting allows you to examine who's in control and who's in the lead. And if you can figure out that the team that's in control and you get a good number and you can play that number, you can make a lot of money.
The best place to watch the Super Bowl will be at the downtown Las Vegas Event Center. 72-foot large screen, full sound. We're going to have about 6,000 people out here. We do have some cabanas still available for purchase, as well as tables. If you want to come down, go to downtownwatchzone.com.
By far the best place to watch the Super Bowl in Las Vegas is right here at the Rampart Casino. Our fabulous new video wall and race and sportsbook is second to none in the Selmerland area. We were voted third best race and sportsbook in Las Vegas by the Review Journal. So definitely right here, come down and join us at the Rampart Casino.
When it comes to the best place to watch in the big game, it's right over here, right over my shoulder, or at any of the Station Casinos race and sports books. All the seats are free. They're all on the 50-yard line. Come on in early, have a great time, enjoy everything we have to offer. It should be a great day, and you might be lucky to be cashing one of those prop bet tickets during the game, or cashing the side or total after the game. But again, come on in to Station Casinos. We love having you here. Camp out, get here early, have some fun.
Place to watch the game in Vegas is really any one of the Caesars properties. The book here at the Link is going to be one of the most popular bumping places around. You get to rent one of our amazing fan caves for you and up to 9 of your friends, and you get to watch the game on a 98-inch TV. Get to control it, get to control the experience in the palm of your hands. It's really hard to picture a better experience than that.
The best place to watch the Super Bowl in Vegas is the Mirage. I mean, we've got this giant screen right here, plenty of seating. The atmosphere is unbelievable, and everybody has a great time, so I couldn't imagine going anywhere else.
The best place to watch a Super Bowl here in Las Vegas is right where we're standing. South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa, right here on Las Vegas Boulevard, home of the VSiN Studios.
We're breaking down the teams, the lines, and the hundreds of prop bets so you can have a winning Sunday. It's time for Betting in Buds from the South Point Hotel with Brent Musburger, Vinny Magliulo, Chris Andrews, and Michael Lombardi.
Okay, Sam Panayanovich, Windy City Sam, where are you here, lad?
Over here, Brent, to the left. I got VSiN Fan of the Year, Randy McKay.
Randy McKay, we got to hear from a better standpoint. Randy, how are you? There's our VSiN Fan of the Year. Give it up for Randy McKay over there, everybody.
Thank you.
He wants me to hold it. I'm not holding his mic.
All right. What do you got for us, Randy, my man? You're a bettor. Now, we're up here on the other side. These guys, especially Chrissy and Vinny, on the other side of the counter. What do you got from a betting standpoint, Randy?
Well, I got a lot of props, and I took the Rams at +3, so I'm against you, I think. Ain't I, Brent?
Yes, that's right. I'm on the Patriots at 2.5. But if Chrissy will give me 3, I'm going to tease to the 10 and middle this dang thing. You know that.
Stick around. You never know.
Or if you want to press on her dinner bet.
Oh, that's right. But you beat me up on one of those Montana teams against North Dakota. You rascal, you. Hey, you came down here to Las Vegas. You left North Dakota. What was the temperature up there, Randy?
It was -4 when I left, and there was it got to -35. So I'm real glad to be here with everybody, and it's awesome to be here and be able to sweat rather than freeze.
Yeah, great. It is great having. How many are from out of state? Raise your hand. Oh my goodness. Look at this, what we got here, huh?
Thanks for being here.
Wow. So let me, anybody from Montana? Oh, yes, my son, of course. Blake, how are you, mother? Good to have the Montana contingent here in the room. So, Sam, Windy City, go ahead and see. Folks, I know we wanted to answer some questions from you all because everybody's got a question about betting or teams. And we got some fellows with the hands raised, so go ahead here, Sam, and let's get them introduced here. Come on, young man,
hey,
Michigan shirt.
Yep, I'm Donnie from Detroit. So can you give us some kind of bet on, can we get the Lions to win a Super Bowl by like 3,000, like the year 3,000? What do you think about the Detroit Lions?
I think 100 to 1. So that's that's as far as I'm going right now.
Yeah. What do I think about the over? That's a good question. I like the under because I like Belichick to run the football. To the point of what Michael said, okay? Now, he doesn't have Sony Michel I'm very familiar with, okay? I covered him many a time down at Georgia. Terrific running back. He's not a power running back. He's not. If Ndamukong Suh and Donald come free on him, they'll take him down. But Belichick and the San Francisco 49ers use a fullback more than any team in the NFL. And I think they can get help. And once they open a little daylight, Sonny Michel is one of the more dangerous runners. He scored 5 touchdowns in 2 games already. That's the most touchdowns scored by a rookie running back in the playoffs in NFL history. So, as you can see, that's all right. You can have my daughter-in-law's seat there. You're a good man. That's all right. Hi, Nicole. So I like the under, but this game is close, and Chrissy, if it goes to overtime, forget about it.
Well, I've just seen football so many times where you get into a big game, and a game can take on a life of its own. And if they start matching touchdowns, it just wouldn't surprise me that much.
The most important question is not what we think of this. What do you think of the total? Because at the end of the day, you're going to be the one stepping up to the window. So, all right. Well, then you got your conviction. You got your cash.
That's why we got bookmakers.
There you go.
Windy City, you got one? Go ahead.
Right here, thanks. I got a question to Mike. I know the Rams have the #1 defense in terms of short passing game, and the Patriots seem to have a very good, if not in the top 5, short passing game offense. Strength versus strength. Does the motion that the Patriots use help them with that short passing game? And how does that play out?
Whenever time you throw the short passing game, Brady knows where he's going to throw the ball to before he gets it in his hand. The motion is really to help the receivers get away from any press coverage. That's why they tend to motion Edelman into a tight split so people can't jam him and take away the rhythm throws. So if people have a misconception about the Rams, is the Rams play 98% zone. They don't play man-to-man. They play a match zone. So there'll be quick throws to make. And Wade will probably wait a while before he wants to get into a man game because Talib, frankly, can't run as well as he used to run, and Marcus Peters is a liability at corner. So they've played zone the last 8 games of the season to limit their exposure because they couldn't play track meets anymore. And I think that's what they'll do. I think Brady will throw the ball out of base personnel effectively.
John from Destin, Florida. I just want to, another question, I just want to thank y'all for being on the air. Besides Marshall and the Gold Sheet, we've not had a source of humor and smart asses, and I love every minute of it. And I just want to thank y'all a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Hold on.
Did you say you're from Florida? All right.
By the way, excuse me, I have a question.
Great
Is
down
that
there,
the home of the magic mud? The magic mud that they rub on the baseballs? Isn't that? Okay. There you go. Take claims for that.
Steve from New Jersey. If Tony Romo knows what the Patriots are doing, shouldn't Wade Phillips know what the Patriots are doing?
I mean, Romo knew because football's a real simple game, right? If the middle of the field's closed, that means there's a free safety in the middle of the field. There's going to be certain routes. If the middle of the field's open, that means there's 2 deep safeties. There's going to be certain routes. So when he saw the motions, he knew they were going to run their middle of the field throws, or the first 2 third downs that Edelman were, they were man-to-man out of motion, middle of the field's closed. The second one, the middle field was open, and they threw the ball to Gronk. So it's pretty easy. I mean, Romo played quarterback. He was also, what I think you hear from Romo is a lot of Bill Parcells. I think you hear a lot of Bill Parcells and Romo about game management, about how to pace the game, because Bill learned it through Al Davis and Belichick, and everybody learned it through that. So I think that's what you hear. But the NFL, there's really not, I mean, it's not that hard to predict the plays. It's really hard to execute the plays.
Michael, Parcells didn't teach him to catch a snap as a holder.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Speaking of being a smart ass, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Right here.
Lou from Milwaukee, Packer country. I wanted to ask Michael, why don't more teams play fullbacks? We won a Super Bowl with William Henderson. You got Devlin with the Patriots. Why? I mean, it seems like such an advantage when you got a tough running game.
I think the Patriots have become the Stanford of the NFL. Nobody really knows how to play against them anymore because they run Stanford's offense. Stanford runs a power 2 tight end offense in college football, and everybody's spread. I think in the NFL, as Bill Walsh told me years ago, and I wrote about it in my book, it's a copycat league. When teams go, look, we just hired Cliff Kingsbury, who runs a very, a wide spread open attack. And everybody wants to run that. They want to score more points when I think the good coaches know you need a fullback. You need to have some toughness. You play in Green Bay and you play outdoors in Green Bay, you better be tough. You better have toughness. I think Kansas City got into that problem as well. Kansas City doesn't have enough toughness on their team, and that's why they did it.
And, Michael, here it is, Gridiron Genius.
Thank
we
you.
got a gentleman out here with
Thank
a copy.
you very much.
A
Thank
master class in winning championships, building dynasty in the NFL. Michael Lombardi right here. And the forward by the man himself, Mr.
God.
Bill Belichick. God is there. All right. You got somebody right here.
Okay, it's been brought to my attention from some folks in the back that the Patriots historically have low-scoring first halves in the Super Bowls. What do you think for the over-under in the first half?
Well, I have the over and under now at 27 in the first half and 30.5 or it's either 30.5 or 30 for the second half. So I would reflect that, and it's not just a matter of opinion; it's actually fact. But once again, I've seen games take on a life of their own. So you bet it. You may have a statistical edge, a trend edge, but once they get on the field, it's a whole different ball game.
Hey guys,
I would add to that. I think the Patriots this year are different than any other team that they've ever played. They've outscored people 49-7 in the first half this year in the playoffs. 49-7. They beat the number 1 seed Kansas City. They were 14-0 on them, and they blew out the Chargers, who could have easily been the number 1 seed. I think the thing we all miss about this Patriot team, and I'm not being a homer here because I worked for them, but I think the thing we're missing about this Patriot team is this is the first time they've entered the Super Bowl playing their best football. When we won this Super Bowl, we really didn't play the best football. In 14, I don't know if everybody remembers, it's in my book, we were behind twice by 14 points to Baltimore in a divisional round and came back and won. That was a hard-ass game. This is the first time that they've reached this pinnacle going into the playoffs. I think they'll score more in the first half because that's what they've been doing.
It did open 28, so bet down to 27.
So we got bet down to 27.
Hey guys, Chad from Delray Beach, Florida. Thank you all very much. Appreciate all the commentary. Just a quick point if I can. So it seems to me that Vegas doesn't really lose money on these Super Bowls every year. And it just seems when you look around at all the gambling money and the fan money, it seems like it's entirely on New England. Can you speak to the fact that, is there a concern that everybody likes New England in this game?
Well, let me just tell you, I've been doing this for a long time, and we have had losing Super Bowls. I can tell you that. Now, not a whole lot of them, but we have definitely had them. Now, last year, and I had my consigliere, Jimmy Vaccaro, with me, and unfortunately he's not with, even though I talk to Jimmy every day, multiple times a day. Jimmy definitely helped me with a strategy last year for the props. And we actually did very well for the state. I think the state made $1.2 million for the entire state. Well, we won about 33% of that right here at the South Point. And a lot of that credit I'm going to give to Jimmy Vaccaro because he helped me with the strategy as far as the props. Now, believe me when I tell you, it's kind of like what Michael said. Everybody got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I haven't been punched in the mouth yet. We're going to get punched in the mouth in the next 2 days. So right now I've been working. I think I have some real good numbers, but my strategy is really kind of useless until I see exactly what they want to do with the game. Then I'll do some maneuvering. But don't think we win every time because we certainly don't. I've been on some really bad ends of some Super Bowls. The one that jumps to my mind is when the Rams, the St. Louis Rams, beat the Tennessee Titans. That was a really bad one, and I still probably have some credit cards I'm paying off from, that was really bad. So we don't win all the time, believe me, we don't.
Broncos, when they beat the Packers that year too, always that was a very good Super Bowl for the public, particularly not only for the game but also the futures as well.
Some of you know Jimmy Vaccaro and may not know that living here 44 years, the legend himself, he wanted to go back home. And so they have legalized sports wagering in the state of Pennsylvania. He's gone to work, if you're back in the Pittsburgh area, at a Rivers Casino. There we are. Steeler fan. We've got a Steeler fan right here. So then, of course, Chrissy is a big Pittsburgh guy. And Jimmy's now working for the Rivers, which is very, very close to where the Steelers and the Pirates play.
That's a great location.
They'll have a lot of business in there, in that casino. But then again, Vinny, he mentioned the weather to us today on My Guys in the Desert.
Yeah, he went to go valet his car and it was closed because it was frozen.
So maybe the legend himself will be back in time for March Madness. We have another question out here.
Yes. I'm curious now that New Jersey's involved now, and back east. Where do you guys see? First off, we got two quick questions on it, but what do you see about regional biasism? So, meaning here we're going to obviously get a lot of LA Ram influence from Los Angeles. Do you see maybe a little difference in the line movement from out here than New Jersey?
Well, let me address that. I would say, a lot of it depends. So when a lot of times I look back at my years in Reno, let's say, and the years I was in Reno, the 49ers won 5 Super Bowls. The Raiders won a couple Super Bowls themselves. We got bet quite a bit on those two teams when they were good. Let me just tell you, when your money's involved, you'll bail on those guys quickly when they're not covering numbers. And I've seen it go the other way when the Niners, and the Raiders both. They suffered through some long dry spells, and you couldn't beg people to bet on the teams at that point in time. Now you're talking about New Jersey right now. The Eagles have had, a couple of great years. The Giants have been iffy. The Jets have been iffy. I think you'll see if those teams catch fire and all of a sudden become contenders, you'll see plenty of money on those teams. But if they don't, I don't think people will be rushing to the windows to bet on those teams because your money's just too important to you. You could root for your team, but if you're putting up your money, it means a little bit different.
We've spoken to our colleagues in those jurisdictions. Right now, in Rhode Island, for instance, which has sports wagering as well, it's all about the Patriots right now. And we talked during the a couple of weeks ago in Mississippi, where certainly the Saints did get a lot of backing. But the other part of it is folks like yourselves are much more in tune with what's happening with the numbers as well, and they're not opposed to shopping for a little value too, even if it means, if it means cashing a ticket, as Brent always talks about, that's going to influence your decision quite a bit too.
Michael, for the crowd out here, the MVP is always a popular prop, but if it's Patriots are the right, you got to pick the quarterback. I mean, what are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, last year James White, the year that James White had to win Super Bowl 51, he didn't win the MVP. Brady had to give him the truck. I don't know what a guy could have done to win the MVP any more than So I think if the Patriots win, I think Trey Flowers will have a big day defensively. Will he win the MVP? No. And I think the only guy that I could see winning the MVP would be Aaron Donald, because if he's a disruptive force and he shuts down this team, the Patriots have averaged 383 yards during the regular season offensively. In the playoffs, they've averaged 511. If they shut down and they make this a low-scoring game and the under comes in and Donald makes a couple plays, I could see Donald being the MVP.
Okay, we got a gentleman in the back with that nice VSIN 7.5 spread on the front. How are you, young man?
You got it, Mr. Musburger. Pleasure to be here. Scott from New York. My question's for Mike. Mike, big fan. Been listening on the Bill Simmons podcast for many, many years. Probably the Lufthansa's heist is the greatest nickname of all time. Clapper's a close second. I got you covered there.
Thank you. Brent, Brent, I just want you to know, but I don't want to interrupt him. Brock Osweiler, I nicknamed the Lufthansa heist because he stole so much money from the Houston Texans. It was like the Lufthansa heist that no one's ever been caught, and everybody died around him. Everybody in the Lufthansa heist, if you remember in Goodfellas, they all died. Everybody got killed. So that's why I named him that. And, of course, Jason Garrett, I named the clapper because literally I've been in the league 35 years, and I've only seen him clap. I've never seen him do anything else. So that's why.
Mike, my question is, I always appreciate, you talked about quarterbacks with the levels down the field, 10 yards, 10 to 20, 20 plus.
Yeah.
Where do you see Jared Goff kind of?
Oh, that's a great question.
In that range right now.
So, I mean, we're in a boxing town, so quarterback's eye level is always the most important thing in football. And the way you can tell a quarterback's eye level is the stat called yards per attempt. We got run out of Cleveland, Belichick and I, because Bernie Kosar was a legend in the town, and he was a good player at one time. But Bernie's eye level came down so far that he could tell you what the right guard was doing. He could tell you what the left guard was doing. And when Belichick benched him one time, he took him off the field, and Bernie says to Belichick, I was 10 for 12. And Belichick says, yeah, for 32 yards. I mean, that ain't going to get us anything, right? So your eye level is where your eyes. If you can see what the linemen are doing, you're in trouble. If your eye level's up, you never cared. Dan Marino's eye level never lowered. He was always up the field, throwing it down the field. Phillip Rivers' eye levels never lowers. He's always averaged over 8 yards per attempt. Jared Goff, in the last 2 months of the season, he starts out in September, he's always around 10. And by the end of the year, he's usually right around 7. In the playoffs last week, the last half of the last game was his best half in playoff football. He was actually at 7. He's never really been over 7. The good teams that play Goff force his eye level down. That's the key to the game, is you hit him in the mouth, where's his eye level, yards per attempt. If he's at 8, the Rams win. If he's at 7, the Rams lose.
To that point, Michael, Steve Mackinnon, the fine editor of Point Spread Weekly, teams that, and these are just regarding Super Bowls, teams that average more passing yards per attempt in the Super Bowl are 41-11 straight up, 35-14-3 ATS, or 71%. However, Steve points out, this particular stat edge is on a 4-game losing streak. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about picking a winner. Now, teams that rush for more yards in the Super Bowl, 38-13 straight up, 35-13-3 ATS, only 72%. And he points out the Eagles racked up 164 yards on New England last year. And, of course, the stat that all coaches dread the most. The team that has more turnovers has won just 6 times in the Super Bowl straight up and 8 times against the spread. That's only 18%. It's one of the biggest reasons for the Broncos' win in 2016. They forced 4 turnovers by the Panthers. In last year's game, Patriots and Eagles both turned it over once, so there was no stat advantage there. Sam, you got somebody else here.
We got 2 more, Brent, if we have time. 2
got
more.
it, absolutely.
Hi, I'm Chad from Dallas, Texas. Thank you guys for doing this. Have a specific prop question, 2-part, the strategic part for Mr. Lombardi and grading portion for either Mr. Magliulo or Andrews. So the South Point opened a prop on how many Patriots players will have a rushing attempt in the game. It was opened at 6.5 under -120. I believe it's dropped now to 5.5, and I'm not exactly sure of the current juice. So, Mr. Lombardi, my question for you would be, what would your feelings be on that? Because I personally think there will be 6.
Well,
and then the grading question, though, which I'm not 100% sure on, if Brady was to not have a rushing attempt in the game at all, but the Patriots were winning and he took a knee at the end of the game, would that count as a rushing attempt?
That is a rushing attempt.
Right, that goes on the rushing attempt. So if you count Brady kneeling down at the end of a half, let's say, you count Burkhead with a rushing attempt, you count Devlin with a fullback on a short yardage play, that's 3. If you count Sonny Michel, that's 4. If you count Cordell Patterson, that's 5 on some jet sweep. And now you got to see if Edelman's going to run one, if they have some run play for Edelman. You know, that's why the numbers so perfectly fit. You know, there's nobody else going to get the football then other than those guys. Gronk's not going to run it, you know, and excuse me? And James White. So there's 6. And I think James White, the prop that I like is I think James White's going to run the ball more than 3 times in the game. 3.5. I think he'll run it 4.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm a local here, originally from Milwaukee. And I take a trip down memory lane with the Fridge running back over George Cumba years ago. Will the NFL ever see a 300-pound plus fullback or tight end on a regular position to revolutionize the game?
I mean, that Christian Wilkin from Clemson, that's a man now. They put him in there at the game at 300 pounds. If he gets drafted by the Patriots, he won't be there when the Patriots pick. But I could see him being in there at games and bang some people. I mean, look, nobody wants to handle it. There's some teams that do in short yardage, they put a big guy in there, and the defensive backs get out of the way. But in the middle of the field, you know, teams are too much of a finesse. They want to throw it, so I don't see a place for it. You got to find another position to play. James Devlin was a defensive lineman at Brown. We took James Devlin off the Cincinnati Bengal practice squad because he played fullback and defensive line, and we took him and made him a fullback.
Michael, how important is Greg Zuerlein's injury to his plant foot? Now, in case he kicked that 57-yarder, the longest field goal ever to win a championship game against New Orleans, but he said he injured the plant foot when he came out to warm up for the second half. Now, he's had a couple of weeks.
Right.
He was limited in practice, the last practice report that I got from the Rams. What's your feeling now about a field goal kicker and the plant foot?
Well, if they didn't sign another kicker, he's healthy. Because this game's too big to go in with just one kicker. If he were just a little bit of a doubt that he wasn't going to play, you've got to inactivate so many guys anyway, 7.
Got it.
They would have signed another guy. They would have put a guy on IR and signed another kicker just to protect themselves before this. And tomorrow at 4 o'clock, they can't make another transaction. So we'll know by tomorrow whether if he's fine, they won't sign another kicker.
Okay, Sam?
Yeah, just one quick note. If you haven't already, Brian in the Powers That Be said if you provide your email on the way out to one of these tables, you'll get a free copy of the Big Game Bet Guide.
Okay.
All you got to do is provide your email. That's all.
That's great because, you know, listen, Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo, Michael Lombardi, they all contribute so much to VSIN, Vegas Stats and Information Network. Thanks to Michael Gahn, we have this beautiful $1 million studio right here adjacent to the sports book, and it's wonderful being here. The bookies are on frequently. But the one thing I want to point out about Michael Gahn, because frequently you will hear us talking to Jay Kornegay at the Westgate or Artman Terrace, who happens to be Chrissy's cousin, who runs the book at the stations, casinos around town. And it was Mr. Gahn himself who encouraged us to reach out to all the bookmakers around the city of Las Vegas, because he said this is an entire industry. One book's not going to capture 100% of it. And so because of Mr. Gahn, we have all of these bookmakers who come in regularly on VSiN. You can listen to the shows. You can stream them on vsin.com on your computer. We also are on Sirius XM Radio, channel 204, and on many of the over-the-air stations of radio, we do updates on the spreads and everything. But Chrissy and Vinny, there's nothing more exciting than a Super Bowl weekend in Las Vegas. Well, March Madness is pretty good now, but Super Bowl's at the top.
Yeah, I remember one guy saying, boy, this is just like your Super Bowl, huh? Yeah, it's exactly like my Super Bowl. Yeah. Anyway, I too would like to say thank all you guys for coming out here. So, thank you for coming. Yep. And a couple of things I'd like to say is I'm usually behind the counter. I have a workstation right there on the end of the counter. And if you want to come by and say hello, flattery will get you everywhere. Just come up and say hi, and I'll probably give you a buffet comp. And if you're looking to bet serious money, that's the other thing I say. Bring the cash to the counter, and we'll take it from there. If you're looking to bet the Quinnipiac game, I'm probably not going to give you $300,000. But if you're betting the Super Bowl, yeah, that was no problem.
Well, thanks to all of you. Thanks to Brent. I mean, again, Brent spearheads what we do in the studio. You mentioned Michael Gahn. We appreciate all of you being here. And what we do is a labor of love, and you help make that enjoyable for us. So best wishes to you this weekend, folks.
Yeah, I hope everybody wins, and I hope the Patriots win 28-24, and Bill gets another Super Bowl.
I want to tell you one anecdote about Super Bowl I before you all leave. I was a young newspaper man for Chicago's America. Do we have anybody from Chicago? It was the afternoon paper for the Tribune. So I was covering it, and we only had, I would say, shy of 25 reporters, most of us from NFL cities. The Green Bay Packers were playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Pete Rozelle, the commissioner then, gave me a handful of tickets. I couldn't even give them away. They were $25 a copy. I've still got a few of them. But when the game was over, it ended in the late afternoon, we went back to the saloon afterwards. And those of us on afternoon newspapers, we were writing our stories. And there was a legendary reporter by the name of Joe King from the World Telegram. In those days, New York had seven daily newspapers, all right? There was only one thing that Joe loved better in sports, and that was dollar Budweisers, if you know what I mean, okay? So we looked over, all of us looked over at one point, and poor old Joe, bada bing, had passed out right there next to his typewriter. We all knew he had not filed his story yet, okay? And you had telegraph operators who were filing them all around the country. So Milton Gross, a legendary columnist for the New York Post, said, listen, let's each write a paragraph. And we all said, all right, Milton, you write the lead. So he wrote the first paragraph, and then the rest of us sat down and we sent the story in that night to the World Telegram. The next day, Joe wanders around looking kind of hazy. He says, damn, editor called and said I did a hell of a job last night, boys. And that was my introduction to the Super Bowl I back in the day. They've come a long way, but thanks so much for all of you for supporting us and being here. And I know that bar is still open because I still see Matty Humans back there, okay? You can get the dollar buds, man. Jonathan Von Tobel, Windy City Sam. Say hello to the guys. Thanks a lot. And remember, cash and tickets is what it's all about. Good luck, everybody.
Professional bettors look for where there's value. They'll break down the game and then they'll bet their propositions accordingly, particularly those that involve statistics. The general public, on the other hand, will bet on props where they can bet a little, $10, $20, $50 to win a lot. Will the game go into overtime or will there be a safety? Both of those at around 6-1. who will score the game's first touchdown. Look for the long odds there. They will look at the player to win the most valuable award for the game. All those, but when you put them all together, the proposition bets have become more and more popular, and they'll account for anywhere from 40 to 50% or more of the betting handle on the Super Bowl.
There's actually a lot of popular prop bets we have. Will the first score of the game be a touchdown, field goal, or safety? Will a team convert a fourth down attempt? Will the game go into overtime? But by far and away, the most popular prop bet we have is player to score the first touchdown.
So far, I've taken 2 props, one for entertainment and one more to try to make money. I like the bet on Greg Zuerlein as Super Bowl MVP at 100-1. Just something to sweat. This kid's got a great leg. That last field goal to win the NFC Championship game would have been good for 70. If he kicks 4 or 5 field goals and a couple around 60 or more, and the Rams pull the upset, there might rate a shot. It's certainly at 100-1 is a good price. And then I really do believe that New England is about 10 points better than Los Angeles in this game. So I took a point spread prop. The Patriots -7.5 plus 245.